Hi, and welcome to ForwardKeys and Friends. I'm Olivier Ponti, VP for Insights at ForwardKeys, and I'll be the moderator of today's session, which we have entitled Making the Best of Big Data for a Speedy Recovery in Tourism. As we are witnessing a reactivation of travel, both domestic and international, thanks to successful vaccination campaigns and the approaching summer season in the Northern Hemisphere, I believe the theme of this session is highly topical. With me on stage today, two distinguished guests who will have a lot to say about data, recovery, and how one can help the other. It is my pleasure to welcome Sandra Carvalho, Chief of Market Intelligence and Competitiveness at the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and Mohamed Youssef, Senior Consultant at Sharjah Tourism in the United Arab Emirates. A warm welcome to you both.
Thank you, Olivier.
Thanks to hi, welcome. Thanks to Sandra and Mohamed, we'll be able to understand the value of data on a global scale, as well as at the level of a specific destination. Both will share very tangible examples of what being smart with data means in times of COVID. So if at the end of this session, you feel inspired and are tempted to follow up on some ideas shared by our presenters, please go ahead and let us know about it. This is the whole point of this webinar series. Now, two housekeeping remarks before we start our panel discussion. One, you will receive the recording of this webinar by email after this session. And two, there will be a Q&A session, but don't wait until it starts to ask questions using the question button. All right, so let's get going. And I'd like to kick off with the key questions of this webinar. Why is big data important nowadays? And can it truly help us accelerate tourism recovery? Sandra, what's your take on this?
Thank you, Olivier, and ForwardKeys for the invitation. It's great to be with you here as one more step in our collaboration. I think we were already seeing pre-pandemic how important it was to have more update information to actually have a clear vision of what was happening in the different markets, plan ahead, and also manage flows. Unfortunately, one of our biggest challenges pre-COVID was often in many destinations, the managing of tourism flows. Now we're facing ourselves with another challenge, which is to support recovery. I think it's critical to make sure that DMOs and national tourism organizations, and from our side at the World Tourism Organization, our stakeholders, mostly the ministries of tourism, it is key that we establish evidence base and market intelligence as the base of our action. I think that was, as I mentioned, pre-crisis very clear. It's even more important now. Unfortunately, the volatility of the market and the current situation demands us to be on top of the information, to understand what is happening, but also to share with the stakeholders. I think there's a huge responsibility and value from both NTOs and DMOs to create partnerships both within the country and with data providers that allow to support that recovery. Big data has been critical in us trying to navigate this such a volatile situation.
Thank you, Sandra. Mohamed, I know your destination has worked on some really interesting dashboards. Could you tell us more about it and then about why data is important to your destination, Sharjah?
Glad to be with you, Sandra, Andrea, and you as a friend. As you know, let me go back a little bit before we jump to the big data, because in the end of the day, we talk about part of the fourth IR, the industrial revolution. What I mean is data now, it's a part of economics elements. They call it data economy. Data economy, it's a global digital ecosystem. It's not only just a normal system. Typical as green economy, blue economy, knowledge economy, and sharing economy. It's not amount of data. It's more than that, because we analyze it and we can lead a lot of things with our decision maker and our strategy, because from time to time, if we go through big data, we can change and re-strategy and re-budget, and it shows us where we are going by figures, because I believe man can lie, but figures never lie. Beyond of that, it's always upgrading, because now it's moving the start big data with the 2 V's. Now it's 7 V's, starting by V. It's not only volume, it's a value, and it's a visualization. It's a digital also. So this is the things. As Sharjah, we have our dashboard, which I'm going to talk later on about our DMB, data management platform. We're using a couple of dashboards right now to help us and to guideline us how we can go and change source market from time to time, tracking the guest or the customer journey. I would like to thank UNWTO and Sandra for their destination track with IATA, because it helped us a lot. It gives us global positioning, and you are a part of this, because it's divided by airlines, STR, hospitality, occupancy, the COVID situation. So it's excellent. And also I have a link with the ICI, and Euro Control, which is show me the airports, the aircraft, the airlines. Also we use the COVID updated dashboard, so I know where I am and where is my guest and other people and where is my customer. As I mentioned, we have our own DMO, which I'm going to explain the platform later. Also, we depend on very important things, the CRM, the customer relations management, plus the ORM, the online reputation management, because it's very important to know the feedback day by day. Also, we have as a government and government authority, we have to consider a very important dashboard. Government tourism funding dashboard, so I know what's other country doing to fund our business as a tourism and total economy. Then last but not least, the FDI, foreign direct investment, which is important for COVID, because we have affected very negatively all the world. Then we have to track the FDI, very important to see how we can do it better.
Do you think the government has truly understood the value of data thanks to this crisis? Has it acted as an accelerator for the kind of investments that you are mentioning, or was this already planned for a long time?
Absolutely, everybody running for the big data now and digitals. This is both very important, because in the end of the day we have to learn, license to learn from COVID. That's we as first affecting us when we start to working from home. So we have to be away. Then we have to work online. Then online you have to collect the information. Information should be objective, not subjective, related to the numbers and figures. That's why we're looking for the big data as very important tools.
Okay, thank you very much, Mohammed. We'll get back to the dashboard in a few minutes. I'd like to turn to Sandra. Mohammed mentioned the recovery tracker that you've put in place. Would you like to tell us a bit more about it?
Thank you, Olivier and Mohammed. Actually, since the start of the pandemic in March last year, UNWTO has made an effort to provide free online tools that allow the sector to have a clear benchmark of the different indicators. When we started with the tracker project, our challenge was there was so many news saying, this destination is opening, air travel is recovering, confidence is recovering, but we wanted to make sure that we could really compare indicators from different sources, but also have an overview over time. So today in the UNWTO website area dedicated to data dashboards, you can find a very complete set of KPIs, of which it includes data from our own evaluation of international tourist arrivals and expenditure as reported by the countries, so actual arrivals to the countries. And we just published yesterday the update for the first quarter of 2021. So it allows each country to get in and compare how they're performing relationship to others. The second area is on air bookings, and ForwardKeys is, we're very happy to have them as a partner. And then we also have information on air capacity that we get from ICAO, our sister agency in the UN system on civil aviation. And then we have indicators on social listening as well. So what is the travel sentiment of travelers at this point? Is it growing? Is it stable? And finally, we have two other indicators that relate mostly to issues related to accommodation at the destination, and they cover hotel searches and bookings with our partner Sharjah, and also with AirDNA issues of short-term rentals, and finally with STR we have data regarding occupancy rates. So as you can see, it gives you the full picture. It also allows you to see per region, so you can compare which regions are doing better, and also related to the previous months, so that you have an idea of how the sector is recovering. So really, I think this is an example of how different sources can be used. I always say that the big question is make the right question so you get the good answers. So make sure that whenever you are investing in this, you define your KPIs beforehand, and the ones that are relevant for your country. And also, I'd just like to highlight that today there's a huge opportunity also with open data sources. We've seen Google launching new tools as well online. So for the colleagues working on research and looking at building their databases and their dashboards, I think there's also today new opportunities that the crisis has brought to have new data.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sandra. I mean, the UNWTO has always been regarded as a reference when it comes to tourism statistics and data. You've always been very advanced. I'd like to ask you the same question as the one I asked Mohammed. Was this crisis an accelerator? And was it easier to get access to data in times of COVID?
Definitely. I think it was an accelerator on two fronts. First of all, the need to provide updated information, because I think the uncertainty that the crisis has brought put us all in a situation where we were all looking for touch points. And the second one, the fact that there is an awareness of the importance of those tools. I think for us, the crisis wasn't accelerated on both fronts, but also on a front of partnerships. I think this crisis has reinforced the need for the sector to come together. And we were very happy that we were able to bring different private sector partners to this project, which allows the world to have an overall view of what is happening.
Okay, well, having data, having access to data is great, and you've just mentioned that with this recovery tracker, you make it possible for a lot of destinations to get access to very valuable information that will help them making decisions. But in the end, it's really about making decisions. It's about making data-driven decision, and that raises the question of how to make data actionable. And I'd like to turn to Mohammed now and ask you, Mohammed, how you make data actionable. What data do you need to make better decisions, and how do you monitor data and data use as a DMO? That's a lot of questions, but
no, it's okay.
You see where we're going.
It's okay. As we are organizations, we have to we play two roles: tourism and hospitality, because hospitality as a hotel is a part of our job to do and to look after. We looking for the hotels, airlines, airports, ATA, GDS, and one more things which we call it economic impact data. The economic impact data through the satellite account, then we can know direct or indirect with end users. We are following also the green list, because we have to know the green list daily. Then we can open our airport, we can open our offices, and we can go back to our live roadshow. And don't forget that's in any business worldwide, no matter, especially tourism and hospitality, we are dealing with two important things: supply and demand. So it's very important always to track and to go for these indicators and supply. For example, we have to follow and see what's going on with the pipeline statistic hotels, for example, as Sharjah, in our pipeline been affected, alhamdulillah, thanks God, until 2025. We are going to have 4,000 more rooms. So it didn't affect because we are following them. And supply also airlines we are following. Demand also is very important to us because we are always focused and looking after the hotel occupancy, ADR, average daily rate, rough bar, which is very important. We have to see what is our situations. Besides that, we have to compare with other competitors' destinations to know where we are. So we receive all this and we go through the figures and to see where we are and what we have to take new initiatives to catch up with other Emirates or with other GC country or in the Middle East. Airlines also, they have their own indicators like flight frequency and the days of operations, the seat. And also we're looking for the very important indicator. I said very important, everything's very important for me. The consumer, the online search data, very important to us. To see the behavior, the booking behavior, because as COVID, there's a lot of behavior change. Then we have to track that very well. Like for example, last minute reservations, changing destination from time to time. I went through some report of yours, which you published it 2 months ago or 1 month ago. I saw Maldives, where the demand is so high suddenly, even from GC country, all to Maldives. Second one was Dubai, German. I'm tracing and going through things to see what's the behavior. It's very important to us.
Yeah, as Sandra mentioned, the market is moving really fast, and it's a real challenge for DMOs to adapt to this ever-changing market and seize the opportunities where they appear, because they may also be short-lived sometimes. So the example of the Maldives you mentioned, I think is very, very relevant. So now that you've got access to this data in this ever-changing environment, do you think that the role played by your DMO is changing or has changed, or will change in the future? Is there any structural impact for a destination management organization like yours?
Unfortunately, we're still COVID everywhere. Fortunately, everything is going to change for better. Even starting from my kids, learning thinking until design thinking, everything is going to be totally change.
But I was thinking in terms of, you've mentioned the benchmark that you're doing with other countries in the region or other Emirates. You need to, as I said, seize the opportunities where they are and make the right decisions in terms of connectivity, in terms of marketing, adapting to changing behaviors, etc. The fact that you've got access to data and that others may not have access to the same level of data, do you think that makes a difference?
Yeah, because everybody's with the access to the data dashboard, the big data is different. It's about some percentage. Some countries, or customers goes 30%, 50%, 70%, depend what's your strategy. And you depend on and the digital, how fast they are going to move. Like 2 months ago or 1 month ago, you attend the big data, Abu Dhabi big data seminar. It was excellent. They did a lot of good job and it shows a lot of best practice. And I'm sure everybody's going to follow the latest thing, especially if you are going to track the online booking customer journey from A to Z.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. Sandra, you're dealing with a lot of destinations, countries, regions, cities. You've seen a lot of initiatives over the past few months, I'm sure. What would be your recommendations for destinations willing to put in place a number of new indicators so that they can track not only recovery, but opportunities for recovery?
Thank you, Olivier. I think the first point is to do an assessment of where you are and define clearly what your target goal is. Define the KPIs that you want to mention, that you can measure as well, and then go for the sources and obviously the investments and the skills development. And finally, make sure, as you were saying, that it's actionable. I think we need obviously to invest in data-driven decisions, but the part of decisions is very important, because otherwise we will have a huge investment in data and in IT systems, but if they don't drive the marketing campaigns or the product development, as Mohamed was saying, most of our marketing campaigns today are digital. So the data will allow you to not only track, but also identify the consumer targets that are more in this moment open to travel to your destination, and target them in a more effective way. I think there's also an important point, which is often there's a lot of data sources in your own destination that you can tap into. So make sure that when you devise such a project, you do it with partnerships with the private sector, with the associations, if you're an NTO, with the local DMOs, so that it can be a system that benefits all the sector. And finally, I think one point is skills development. One of the major challenges that we still have in our NTOs and DMOs is IT skills, big data skills, data intelligence skills. So I think it's important that we can invest further in the education and upskilling of the staff, so that they can also use that information. And just to leave you with a very practical example, because I think from the cases I've seen over the past years, I always quote one from Buenos Aires City. They've invested in a very good market intelligence system, and they were tracking social comments on TripAdvisor. And actually, they realized through the comments that one of the major critics that was emerging is that the hotels were seen as old. So they've deployed an incentive line in the city to support the refurbishment of hotels. So I think this is very much a good example of how data can be used for policymaker. And I think this is really where we need to aim when we invest in this systems.
Mm-hmm. I think you've raised a number of interesting points. I'd like to focus on two. First of all, the need to embed the intelligence system in the destination. So have partners involved, local partners. It's about being able to use this information, but you should also ask yourself the question when you put these things in place: who is going to use this data? Maybe it's not just the DMO, but a lot of partners at DMO level to make the destination much stronger. And the other point you raised, which I think is also critical, is it's skills and education. And I think in many cases that's probably one of the obstacles that destinations are facing: getting the right people with the right skills in the right place. Are there some other obstacles that you think are preventing destinations from, or stopping destinations from unleashing the power of big data? Sandra? And then Mohamed, I'll ask you a question.
Thank you, Olivier. I think often there's lack of knowledge, and internally as well. So from our side at UNWTO, we're now working specifically with the European Travel Commission and the European members to create what we call a project on a UNWTO ETC data lab, so that the countries can share experiences among themselves and learn from each other. I think there's many experiences going on, but still there's not enough sharing of those experiences. So we do hope this will help. And I also think that sometimes there's the fear that those systems would be either too expensive or too complex. But I think, you know, DMOs really need to jump into the pool at this moment, because at the end of the day, it's an investment that has a significant return. And particularly, as I said, it needs to be something that's embraced by the whole sector in the destination.
Yeah, not investing in data also has a cost for the destination. It should be clear. Mohamed, for you,
good.
I mean, I understand you have a system that's already very rich. What do you consider as the most interesting, most relevant indicators within the indicators that you have put in place, and what still prevents you from going one step further? What are the obstacles for, as I said, unleashing that power of big data at the level of your destination?
Yes. You know, as the coronavirus teach us a lot. One of them, we went back and we restart our strategy again to increase the focus on the destination management and all our partners too, and especially to develop re-engagement strategy with all big data company partners, third party. Why? Because there is a lot of information, some specific information, some general information, but in the end of the day, we have to drive the boat from both sides. Also, we learn how to build more market confidence. That's why we went and we built our DMB. Our DMB, it's a data management platform, simply including the journey of the customer or our guest from starting from his journey, from inspirations, planning search, booking, pre-trip, on-trip, bus trip, and we built the approach first before we go through our platform. This platform, DMB, integrated with DSP, which is demand side platform. Of course, we have to have some input for the DMB, like on the channels data, paid campaigning data from travel data partners. Also, we have two systems, one related to the hotels, which is hotel statistic system. It gives us the full barometer, daily, weekly, monthly. And of course, last but not least, the GTS. As we put this as input, then we expect the output with the integration with the DSP, which is we receive a lot of comprehensive reporting. This related to our statistic, especially it will be very needful if we are going to run a campaign, even awareness campaign or package or corporate campaign.
Well, what could help you go one step further than where you currently are?
Any update terminology, tools with big data or digitals, it will be help us to jump more speed. Time is very important. Sandra, she mentioned one thing, but I don't want to comment a lot. We learn also from the fourth IR, a learning machine. That's why everybody now went through training, online training. Nobody go for the physical. So with online learning machine, we went through a lot of training, a lot of new ideas. We need the people and decision maker to believe. Then we have to run the airplane very fast. There's no time to lose.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Sandra,
and we need somebody smart like you.
Thank you. You need smart people, that's for sure. Everybody needs them, and that's why we need to educate more people so that they become fully proficient with data that can really be of help for our sector. Luckily, I mean, COVID still remains a major crisis, but luckily we're starting to see first signs of recovery or encouraging signs of reactivation, pointing towards the reactivation of travel. What do you think are the indicators that will help us identify those signs of recovery the best? And what are the signs of recovery, very tangible ones, that you can see at your level? Let's start with Sandra. Recovery, what does it mean for you at the moment, and how can you monitor it?
Thank you. I think there is two levels. One is obviously the movement on vaccination and travel restrictions, and unfortunately, travel restrictions and vaccinations are, I think, the unlocking solution to this situation. I would invite those interested in looking into the UNWTO IATA destination tracker. We've partnered with IATA to make available global information on the restriction level per country. We see that there's a strong lack of communication and clarity on what are restrictions in place to travel to different countries. So that tool that we have built is available online. It's free. You can check not only from a consumer perspective, but if you're a destination to compare yourself with others and benchmark, it's important. We're seeing good news coming from the European Union on the EU COVID certificate. We're also seeing some countries starting to accept vaccination certificates as a way to ease quarantine or other requirements. So I think this is the first important sign that we're seeing. The second one is, I think there's a huge pent-up demand. Your data shows it, and other partners as well. Whenever there's a clear communication on the lifting of restrictions, we see that searches and bookings increase. But of course, there's still a high degree of uncertainty. So if consumers are not sure of what will happen in a month, it's going to be really difficult to incentivize them to book in that period. And as Mohamed was saying, our biggest challenge is the shorter period of time that people are booking. So the volatility of the behavior of the consumer is important to track. And then I think there is an important indicator as well, which are searches, which give you also an indication of the appetite that people have to travel. That said, we just released our latest data today. Unfortunately, the first quarter shows that we're still over 80% down compared to last year, and almost 90% down compared to 19. So we know that the road ahead is challenging, but we are seeing signs of positive news, which is the most important thing. We're having today our regional meeting for Europe with ministers from the European region meeting in Athens physically, which is something that we wouldn't be able to see in many months. We also had a regional commission for the Middle East last week in Riyadh and presidentially. So I think little by little we will start seeing also meetings and this kind of events improving the confidence of travelers.
Yeah, we're seeing a slow reactivation of those physical events. It's still early stage, but I guess that's very positive for the sector to see business travel restarting. One more question, Sandra. You've talked about the results for Q1. It's what most destinations do. They look at the past. What's your take on other sources of information enabling you to look into the future? How common is it for destinations to use forward bookings or forward-looking information to make decisions now about the future?
Well, I think fortunately we're seeing more and more destinations using other indicators, as you said, forward-looking indicators, air capacity, bookings, searches are key indicators to be able to foresee how the trends might look into. And I think the challenge at this point is really to put all that data together and make sense of it. And as you were saying, I think there's also an important point on crossing data, for example, vaccination with air reservations, so that you have an idea of, how much there is a link between two things, for example. But I see more and more countries investing in forward-looking data, and that has to be the way, because obviously the past gives you a trend, it gives you an idea of where we were, but we need to be prepared to orient our marketing strategies in the short term, but also to understand consumer behavior. I think there's a big point here with this crisis is how much consumer behavior will change and how much of those changes will stay. And using big data and forward-looking data will allow us also to understand those changes.
Thank you, Sandra. Mohamed, could you tell us a bit about recovery? How does it look for you? What are you doing now to make it happen in terms of tools, platforms, promotion activities?
Promotion activities, as you know, that UAE has been run already winter campaign 3 months ago, and now we are ready to run the summer campaign to promote our destinations following the latest methodology to increase the focus and to recover more partner and to build market confidence, which is very important. Soon we are going to restart again with our RAB offices in different countries, and we are going to open new RAB offices in other countries, which is the potential coming on. It shows us some sustainability. Also, we following, as you mentioned before, a lot of indicators. Now we are following the airports. So I know why the airports is busy. Like now, if you look to the airports, the busiest airport, it's Istanbul airports, Charles de Gaulle, Frankfurt, Amsterdam. We're looking to follow also the market segment for the aviation. What I mean by a market segment, commercial airlines and the charts. And for example, now air cargo is the best. Why we are following the charts? Because charts is a very good potential now to follow, as it's easy for the government and other destinations to look after charters, because these figures, it shows which one as a percentage going back, comparing 2019, it shows the percentage. Then we have to follow even the aircraft operations. Turkish Airlines now is the best, Air France, for example, and we have to follow this.
Thank you. Thank you. I see that time flies, and we should probably open the floor for questions from the audience. I'd like to see if there's any question from the audience. There's plenty of questions from the audience. So let's see. Okay. All right, let's take this one. This Christian, could you go down a little bit, please? Yes. So we got this question from the audience. How has COVID-19 shifted the way your tourism organization does business? Which actions have you had to make? I guess this is a question for Mohammed more specifically.
Actually, as I mentioned before, we went 360-degree to the digital. As we learned from day one working from home, then everybody went to his PC, behind his mobile, going through the high-tech technology. And we are going to build digital marketing more to push more digital marketing, because it is the best way now to shift and license to learn from COVID. And of course, we have to be flexible from time to time, but in the end of the day, we have to follow the big data and KPI. I know that we talk about the KPI as KPI, it's the area, the key performance area. For example, if we'd like to go to the Far East, then we have to go to the Far East, the KPI, then we have to go to some certain country in the Far East.
Okay. We also have another question. It's the $1,000,000 question. It's been asked at pretty much every single event that I've attended in the past few months. So let's go for it. When do you think recovery will happen? Sandra, I know you've worked on different models on this. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, as I said, that's the $1,000,000 question. I think, unfortunately, recovery depends on many variables that we don't control and we can forecast. I can tell you what we're seeing from our confidence index that we've just run through our panel of experts worldwide. We're saying that there is a slight improvement in the industry confidence, that we might see a rebound towards the end of this year. But we also asked, we've been running this, now it's the third wave, and we've asked them last October, in January this year, and in May now, when would they see the levels of 2019 coming back again. And unfortunately, in this third wave in May, they are saying, most of the experts, around 60%, that they only see that happening in 2024. So I think one important point is to know that it will be very diverse. I think we will see recovery happening at very different paces in different regions. And this is something that we will have to be aware of. But I think it's also an opportunity to steer some of the markets that we haven't really looked at. The domestic market is one of them. I think in many countries, the domestic market was not a priority. And whenever there's a crisis, the domestic market proves obviously to be the one which is more resilient, and specifically when we have restrictions to travel internationally. So my advice for those countries and destinations where there is a huge potential domestically is to take advantage of that during the crisis, but also think it's an investment for the future, because if the experience is good, consumers will return.
Okay, Sandra, another question from you, from the audience. You mentioned the tool from the UNWTO that could help find indicators and signs of recovery from the crisis. Could you please repeat the name of the tool?
Of course. I advise all the colleagues that are joining us just to go on Google and look for UNWTO data dashboards. You'll find an area where all our dashboards are. And there you will find the destination recovery tracker, but also the UNWTO IATA destination tracker. Just Google UNWTO data dashboards and you will find them.
Thank you. Mohamed, a question for you from Eric Dos Santos.
Before the questions, I download the track in my mobile. Then I go directly any day. Because you can save it as. Instead of what Sandra said, which is excellent, as you know, as soon as we start COVID, everybody say where we are, how we are going to do it. And we start to go through shape. One day they said U shape, L shape, V shape, W shape. And I think now we are in that W because we're going up and down.
Okay, thank you for that. Mohamed, as a senior consultant, I guess you're the best place to answer this question from our audience. Do you think it's necessary to know programming languages like Python or R to make data analysis and decision making as a tourism consultant?
Absolutely, that's for sure. We should move ahead. One lesson we have to learn that we have to go and to get more training and to learn more new high tech and more new informations. Then we can catch information. Then it will be easy, because if you are going to learn it, easy to go to the decision maker, and through your discussion, your feedback will be full of knowledge. It's not a matter of effort. It's not a matter of RFB. It's not a matter of contracting with some third party. It's a matter of the knowledge. What knowledge do we have related to the big data and all the fourth IR?
Okay, so it's about getting up to speed with that kind of analytical tools that we have at our disposal to make the most of big data. All right, I can see we still have plenty of questions, but we are already reaching the end of this session. Is there any last thought that you'd like to leave our audience with, Sandra?
Well, from my side, definitely 3 things: invest in data, create partnerships for data, and make sure that your decisions are always data-driven.
Thank you. Mohamed, same question to you. Any last thought to share with the audience?
The last thing, that's as I mentioned before, that's everybody should go and re-strategy. We should also re-initiatives with the remission and re-vision, including the core value. Why I said the core value? Because if we go to the 17 goals, sustainable 17 goals, the third goals talk about health. So it's very important now to implement, and we should add to our core value health care, which is very important.
Thank you. Sandra, Mohamed, thank you both for being with us today. I think this has been
thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think it's been a truly inspiring discussion. I hope the audience has enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd like to remind all participants that ForwardKeys regularly publishes fresh insights and analysis on our website, forwardkeys.com, and via our social media channels. So follow us on LinkedIn, sign up for our newsletters, and always be one step ahead of the curve. Our next friend at ForwardKeys and Friends will be Eduardo Santander, he's CEO of the European Travel Commission, and we will talk together on Monday, the 7th of June at 2 p.m. CEST. See you there. Thank you once more, Mohamed and Sandra, for being with us today, and I wish you all a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.